will call to order the regular monthly meeting of the City of Helotes Planning and Zoning Commission. Today's date is September the 13th. It is 7:02. I'll ask the commission's secretary to call the roll, please.
Joe Edmond,
Yeah.
how's that here? Greg Michelle,
Here.
Mike McLaughlin. Here. Richard Hawk,
Here.
Jeff Wade,
Here.
Juliet Safine.
Okay, and we have our city administrator with us, Rick Schroeder, and Alex Blue from council.
Make an announcement if anyone is here for the other meeting. It's next door. The Board of Adjustment.
So if there is a Board of Adjustments meeting this evening, is anybody here for that? Okay, good deal. We'll move to item 3 tonight, which is citizens to be heard. And we have one person wishing to speak, Roy Horn. If you are there, great. If you can come up and, for the record, tell us your name, address, or business address. And
That was regarding a specific item for later.
that's okay, this would be the right time to do it.
Okay, because I'm here to represent Mr. Daviletto.
Okay, all right, so you're representing.
Yes.
Perfect. So we'll come back to that then. So is there anybody else here tonight for citizens to be heard? If not, we'll go to item 4, which is discussion and action on the minutes of the regular meeting of Planning and Zoning from August the 2nd, 2016. And you did not sign, because I wasn't here. Right, very good. This is Joel's name. Okay. Thank you.
I didn't understand.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so if folks have reviewed, if there are any additions, edits, corrections, or other changes, call those to our attention. Otherwise, it would be appropriate to have a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Joe.
I move that the minutes be approved as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mike's got the second. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. It's for you. Great. All right. Item 5 tonight. It's a long item. Let me read it off. Discussion and action on a request pursuant to Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Subdivisions, Article 2, Subdivision Regulations, Division 2, Plat Procedures, Section 7873, vacating a plat by Slim Texas LLC to vacate the previously platted Helotes Professional Park subdivision consisting of 4.33 acres tract of land, and approving a re-subdivision plat for Helotes Slim Edition subdivision consisting of 4.359 acres out of the William Alexander survey, and I will leave it at that. Are there folks representing tonight? Okay, great. I will first turn to our city administrator, if you would like to speak to this item.
I have
for
no
us.
comments. I defer to the city engineer on this.
Okay, and we have the statement from the city engineer. And if we have questions for you, we'll let you know, which we may or may not. All right, so everybody should have in their materials both, this is sort of a two-parter, a vacation as well as a replatting. I actually do have a question. I don't know who would be more appropriate to answer this, but in terms of the slight change in size, it's not exactly the same. It was 4.33 to 4.359. Just a curiosity, if you won't mind just coming up and put your name and business address for the record, and you can address that.
Dennis Robinson, 13355 Knoll Road, Dallas, Texas.
Thank you.
And the city engineer actually did have that same question, and we explained to him that the meets and bounds are identical. We do not know why it was platted at the other number, because it's been, and we had our engineer rerun the computer several times to verify that what we show on the replat is accurate and correct. So we're confident that it is correct.
Are you tied to this in some way, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My name is Philip Hampton. I'm a registered professional land surveyor, Sturgis of Texas. We did the survey there.
Say your name again and put your
Philip
business ad-
Hampton,
Put your business address on there.
Sturgis of Texas, 12274 Bandera Road.
Okay,
Okay, what originally happened, the plat went with a deed, a fairly old deed, and referred to a 17-foot strip of land, and it referenced a text document. And if you know anything, text land, that's referring to a perpendicular the text right away. Now, they pushed that 17-foot all the way back to the back. Excuse me. The original deeds called for a 33-foot strip. Now, when you put these older deeds onto the land now, we found all the monuments in the back. When you put this older deed on there, it actually overlaps. The bearings and distance actually overlaps with the adjoiner next door. But because that fence has been there for a good 20 years or more, that they have a concrete fence. And so we can't justify going across that line. So we just went to their called corner and accepted. So, and then in the front, the original subdivision, okay, along that side, there was actually a gap. Because of that strip, they left a gap between the old plat and the adjoiner. We just brought it over. In the front, there was a PI in the front, and if you
Can
look
you-
at the text
can you-
right-of-way maps,
Can you tell everybody what a PI means, please?
oh, it's a point of intersection.
Thank you.
They put a point of intersection on that subdivision plat. The right-of-way map doesn't show up a point of intersection. That's a straight line going all the way across. So if you add all these little things up together, that's the difference.
unusual. Actually, it's not all that unusual.
course.
I'm not surprised by that, right?
Question.
Joe, please.
You first started, you mentioned the meets and bounds, where the lines followed in the meets and bounds.
Yes, there was a meets and bounds at the plat, that vacating portion that described that.
And you said there was a concrete fence? Metal-
Okay, they left a gap between the property line, actually, they didn't set the back corner. They left a gap between the lot lines and the fence actually, if you go from property corner to property corner, iron pin, the fence follows that, exact. So there's no doubt of what the adjoiner is claiming to be their property and have been claiming for a while. The subdivision that we're vacating, you follow the pins and even in the field, and they veer off. So, and there's a strips and gores doctrine and things like that, we can't leave that gap there. By law, we can't leave that there.
You said it's been there 20 years.
That fence has been there for a long, a concrete fence, I think it's been there for a long time.
I'm assuming you're talking about the rear of a Cedar Springs lot.
No, I'm talking about the lot to the east.
Rick, can you bring up, just so folks see
Sure.
it, the image?
Bring up the plat or the aerial?
Well, either way.
Okay, I'm referring to this line right here. So up in front, he used the iron pin on the plat. But as you go to the back, when you reach the back, it's about 1.5 feet.
Well, the only question I have, it's not a contentious issue, is it?
No, it's really not. It's just, we can't leave that gap in there. By law, we're not supposed to leave that there.
Yeah. But if it's a contentious issue by law, there's some other issues involved.
There's both property lines join each other, if that's what you're referring to. The gap actually belonged to our side.
Other questions or
Okay.
comments?
So just,
Michael,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
just to clear it up for me, the concrete fence is on your side,
No, it's pretty much on the line. It's pretty close to being on the line.
okay, but the line you're saying veers off about a foot or whatever in the
Okay,
back.
those were, if you look at those lots along that line, those lot corners were actually found in the field, and they veer off
Yeah.
And like I said, when you get to back, it's about 1.5 feet.
I guess the big thing I'm trying to get to is, once we plat it this new way, there won't be an interference with the adjoining.
No, sir,
property.
because
That
the
just
joiner-
resolves that?
The joiner is claiming up to the fence,
Okay.
and their deeds call for those corners.
Okay, so that's, I'm trying to make sure we're.
Oh, yeah,
next door
no.
straight on that too, okay.
Sure, that's what I had to go, in fact, that's what I'm saying. If I put the actual calls and distances, they actually overlap. And so since I can't, by law, I'm not supposed to put that conflict in there, I'm supposed to let my clients know, but as far as I know, they're gaining 1.5 feet. But they're actually losing, I think it was about 6 feet. But, you know, you can't, you know, once a property is so old, you can't be, you know,
Sure, understood.
sure.
Okay, I think we're
Okay, thank you.
good on that. Other questions?
No, just one other.
Yep.
On the, Rick, on the conditions in the stormwater management, you as the city take care of all of, making sure all that's done?
Or do you
on
want
the
that in the
filing?
motion?
No, we make sure that that gets done, and that gets approved by council.
Okay.
And this is a recommendation item, so it would go before council on Thursday night.
Next Thursday, the 22nd.
Right. Sorry?
This is action.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that is
Got it.
the action.
Got it. Okay.
So it's two-part. It's vacate and
Right.
replat. So we can have a motion at this point, if someone would care to. Michael?
I move to approve recommend to the city council to approve the action on a request pursuant, I won't read the whole thing, but as presented on our agenda, the vacation and replatting of the property. I'll pick up, previously platted Helotes Professional Park subdivision consisting of 4.333 acre tract of land and recorded in volume 9602, pages 19 through 20 of the deed and plat records of Bear County, Texas, and approve a re-subdivision plat for Helotes Slim Addition subdivision consisting of a 4.359 acre tract of land out of the William Alexander Survey number 416, abstract number 33, record in volume 12590, page 2372, official public records of Bear County, Texas. More particularly described as by the BCAT property ID numbers of.
Don't do it. It's all right. You're good.
I'll second. You get the, as in,
For efficiency's sake, is there a second? So I will read it back just to
Okay.
make sure we're all on the same page. If we're wrong,
yeah, I was trying
say
to.
so. The motion is to recommend approval of the request pursuant to Chapter 78, Article 2, Division 2, Section 7873, vacating a plat for Slim Texas LLC to vacate the previously platted Helotes Park subdivision, 4.33 acre tract of land, and to approve a re-subdivision for Helotes Slim Addition subdivision of 4.359 acre tract of land out of the William Alexander Survey. Read that right? Close enough? There is no further discussion of it. So all in favor of this motion, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the recommendation is approved. It goes forward to council on the 22nd of next week. Then thank you all for being here to clarify those things for us. We will move on to item number 6 tonight, which is discussion and action on a request to reface an existing one-sided monument sign approved by the Architectural Review Board in May 2007 for Mexico Lindo Mexican Pottery at 14398 Bandera Road. And I will first invite our city administrator to address the issue. And then it's Mr. Horn, right? Yes. So if we have questions, we will invite you to speak. Thank you. Go ahead, Rick.
Staff reviewed this. Again, it took some digging to figure out where this monument sign was actually approved. But the monument sign, as it stands today, was approved in May of 2007 for the Helotes Feed Store, if you recall, that was there prior to the Helotes Humane Society. We do not typically forward requests to reface existing signage to the commission. We look at it as more of a maintenance issue. But given the presentation by the applicant to us, I felt, frankly, it was easier to punt the ball to the commission because I can see some individuals feeling that the representation that's included in the packets might be considered garish, too bright, that sort of thing. So I'm not making, or we are not making a recommendation. We're not recommending positively or negatively on this sign. We just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of it and it was reviewed by the commission. The last thing I will say on this item is it does appear, though, that the timber framing and also the landscaping around the monument sign could use some maintenance. And if the commission does approve the refacing of the sign, we would recommend you include in that motion that the applicant do some maintenance on the timber framing and replace landscaping as needed to comply with the current code of 2 square feet around the base of the sign.
Okay. Clarify one thing for me, and that is, was it necessary or required for the owners to put in a sign application to do what they're doing, or had staff advised them of that?
No, they would be required to submit an application and to pay the associated fee for either an administrative review or the commission's review.
Because it is a new sign in the sense that the business that's being promoted, the lettering, color, all that, that's new.
Yes, sir. It boils down to the fact that I did not feel comfortable from my perspective making the decision, and so I'm punting the ball to y'all.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I think at this point, it'd be fair, Mr. Horn, let you just speak to this. Go ahead and put your business address on the record before you start, and go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Mike. Been a long time. How you doing? Thanks, Rick. Roy Horn III, business address 15001 Old Bandera Road, just up the way. I don't know a whole lot about opposition to this, I guess, because I'm coming in this late, and Mr. Davila is in Mexico on a buying trip and just asked me to come speak. So I just, from what I heard something about too many colors, some other things, so I did a quick little survey up and down the road, just looking at pylon signs or sign messages on pylons, not on building. I found 8 signs right away that had 4 colors, 4 that had 5 colors, 2 recent signs, Pete's Place and Rosie's Hill Country Haircutting, I think, each have 7 colors on them. Pipe Dreams, which has 5 colors, is so cluttered you can hardly read it. I saw a City Hall sign pop up on the screen that had about 7 colors on it. So I know somebody said garish, and I know somebody said it's too much, but I think when we're talking about this man's business, which is pottery, concrete products, Cantera stone, that the colors on the sign kind of go with the theme of what his products are.
Okay. Let me, while you're standing here, open it up if the commission has comments or questions for anyone on this. Joe?
Yes, I do. I guess my first question is, if this is a maintenance issue, what do we need to do with it?
Say again, Joe. I couldn't
If
hear.
this is a maintenance issue, did I understand you say this should be a maintenance issue?
Typically, we handle these refacings under the maintenance portion of the code. That doesn't mean that the city doesn't have regulatory authority over those. It just simply means that we can administratively approve them. Again, I was not comfortable administratively approving it, predominantly not because of the colors or the amount of colors, but was because of the size and the amount of colors and the backgrounds that are going on with this sign.
Okay, so we need to consider in this request the base of the sign, and what they put on the sign, the colors on the sign, and everything.
The monument, the structure itself has already been approved. That is grandfathered. It is simply the refacing of the sign. And again, I would ask the commission to consider enforcing the provisions under their maintenance of signs that say they have to maintain the landscaping, so on and so forth, which I don't believe many of the applicants have done in the past.
Okay, thank you, I understand.
Other comments or questions? Yeah,
I won't fall on my sword over it, but I think I don't care how many colors, that's fine, because there are a lot of colors, it's all in a theme, that type of thing, and different signs, got it. But the yellow is kind of loud, I guess. That's my only concern with it. I don't care whether it's green, red, it looks fine otherwise. To me, it's just kind of,
Yeah,
loud.
a lot of yellow.
Yeah, that's my concern.
Mr. Chairman?
yeah, Ronald.
I noticed on your temporary sign that you have a portion of it with a white background. I wonder if you guys would be considering putting more of the white on it and less of the yellow?
It's in the packet, Rick, if you want to project it, just to people see what we're looking at.
Yeah, the temporary banner.
Or I can just look at it in your notebook, I just don't have it. Okay.
But I think this is what they're going to do, it's not the temporary.
Right, I understood what Ron was referencing. That.
Yeah.
Yes.
The banner that was approved is predominantly yellow, but there is the white around the logo here.
I have a couple questions.
Please.
I guess the first one is, you stated it was grandfathered in?
The structure is.
It was Boxcar Willie first, the feed store, and then it was the Helotes Humane Society. And so this is the third facing of it. But the structure itself was Boxcar Willie.
It's a different business though, right?
It would be no different than a multi-tenant sign. The structures stay the same, but the face of the signs can be replaced.
But if the business has changed, doesn't the structure have to come up to current code?
Not the
No,
structure.
not under,
If that were to fall down or be destroyed, somebody plowed into it or something crazy,
then it would.
then it would have to. But because the physical sign, the frame, if you will, is not being altered, we're just talking about changing letters, colors, that type of thing. So it seems to me,
I guess
though,
I have a question then, because a few months ago when we were doing the rentals, the storage space over on 1560 in Braun, that was an existing pole sign. They wanted to change the business of it. We said, no, you have to come back to code. We do not allow pole signs, so you have to enclose it.
If they would have kept that pole sign and just refaced the pole sign, as it was standing, there would have been no issue. But they completely modified the structure of that pole sign and they added LED to it. So that is why it wasn't the fact that it was a pole sign, it was the fact that they amended the entire structure of the pole sign. But they could have come administratively and just changed out the plexiglass on both sides of those pole signs, and that would have been fine.
I don't know how to get around what I consider his colors that he wants. The only thing I can think right now would be to suggest to him is, do we do a more muted yellow? So it's not like a warning yellow, it's just a background. Other than that, without him here, I don't know what are acceptable colors to him.
well, as I interpret it, as I read the issue, if this were a brand-new physical sign, it's likely that there would be, it'd be problematic because of the color scheme may not fit with what others think of as appropriate for the aesthetic they're going for in Helotes. But that's not the case here. This is an existing sign, and if you read our code, I understand the city administrator's concern about does it fit or doesn't, but there's nothing explicitly in the code that would speak to this sort of issue. Now, unless I'm misinterpreting what the code says, changing letters, numbers, refacing it seems to be an acceptable act on the part of the owner, with the important caveat, as you show, the timber needs to be maintained properly, because then if it does actually knock down, and they come back and say, we want to put a better quality sign up with this yellow thing, then we could say, well, actually, we don't necessarily think that fits with the aesthetic. So again, I'm speaking personally here, it seems like maybe the best approach would be to communicate informally to the owner that there is some concern that it doesn't fit so well with the aesthetic with the rest of the community, and perhaps it would be beneficial to mute the colors a little bit. But I would have to say, speaking this is me personally, that if he didn't wish to do that, I don't think he's obligated to do so.
Well, it has to meet our standard, our hill country image is what we're supposed to maintain here.
Right, but there's nothing in our code that says refacing needs to.
Well, there's wide latitude granted to the commission and the city's design standards, which are part of the zoning code. And it does talk about color schemes, and that it specifically says garish and refers to bright colors and things of that sort that are not appropriate. That is the exact reason why I opted to have the commission make the decision rather than staff. Because if staff would have made the decision, I imagine there would have been several of the commissioners and several council people asking why that sign had not been reviewed at the commission or council level. So, which is exactly why I punted the ball. My suggestion here, and one that I have not communicated to the applicant, but the yellow on this size of sign is extremely bright, in my opinion. And I would suggest changing the yellow to white and keeping everything else the same. Because to me, as you're driving down the road, and again, this is just my opinion, take it or leave it, but it is an extremely large and bright, perhaps distracting sign given its current color scheme. And I still believe, because of the size and because of the colors of the lettering, that it still is going to draw attention as people drive by.
Well, folks,
That's my opinion, take it or leave it.
I mean, I do think that we would, I think part of the issue here is the council has its own perspective on this, and it's not necessarily unanimous in terms of what council thinks on how signs ought to be treated in the city. Point taken, though, that the commission has latitude to address this. And it is an approval item. So go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, your recommendation, I think, is pretty sound, because all the other colors, it looks like stay, and they would work with the white. They wouldn't be drowned out, I guess you'd say, or faded in any way. I think his message would still be there, the lettering would be the same, the font, all that would work. Either white or maybe some sort of a little bit of an off-white if you wanted to warm it up a little bit, something along those lines.
Yeah, that wouldn't look dirty right away like white or something,
And-
an
and,
off-white.
I mean, That's, just the person designing it, their taste and what they think might work on the sign. And it would blend in with the timber a lot easier too, I think. It would look more of a, I don't know, natural maybe looking structure. And I think it would work well.
Yeah, I understand Rick's concerned. Let me,
We don't want to, shut this down or anything. It's perfectly good with what he wants to do, but we're trying to keep with the theme and an overall concept of
Sure.
appearance. So,
and he wants to be a good neighbor, and he's also hopefully going to generate a lot of sales tax there that business hasn't done for a while at that location.
I think that's our big concern. Not trying to
Other
speak for the
thoughts?
commission.
Yeah,
but-
other thoughts, or we could put a motion out there to discuss. Michael,
Mr. Chairman,
go for it.
I move to, let me get my words here. I move to approve the request to reface an existing one-sided monument sign approved by the Architectural Review Board in May of 2007 for Mexico Lindo Mexican Pottery located at 14398 Bandera Road, Helotes, Texas 78023, more particularly described by BCAT property ID number 1097255 with the following caveats, I guess you'd say. The background yellow on the sign, make it a softer color, use white or an off-white. Perform proper maintenance on the timbers to bring them up, so, replace any rotting wood or just maintain those timbers. And then put landscaping around the bottom of that sign to the required 2 feet.
I'll second.
Richard seconds it. Okay, is there a discussion of the motion, Michael?
No, I think,
Richard?
if the business owners, if, sounds to me, what I'm hearing is, he's okay with that, and I think we'll all be, well-served by it, and he can move on.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Richard? Anyone else? So the motion is to approve a request to reface an existing one-sided monument sign for Mexico Lindo Mexican Pottery at 14398 Bandera Road. The following conditions. First, that the background yellow be changed to a softer color, such as a white or off-white. Secondly, that there be proper maintenance of the timber sign structure. And third, that landscaping at the base of the sign be provided.
Right.
I get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
2-foot minimum.
All in favor of the motion, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Item 7, discussion and action on a request by Monica Murray for hanging signage pursuant to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98, Section 72, Old Town Helotes Special District, subsection G, for, I'm going to get it wrong, is it Mimidi? Mimi Day, thank you. Market located at 14743 East Bandera Road. I just knew you were here for this, though. City Administrator, did you want to speak to this? And could you show the image of it as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
Staff did review this. We do believe that it complies with the Code of Ordinances within the Chapter 98, the Old Town section. I'm trying to, essentially this is what the hanging sign will look like. And this is the color scheme, although the colors are extremely washed out on this projector. But they will consist of these 3 colors. It is a hanging sign that will be hung from this patio here. Again, this building is not completed in this picture. Will be hung from this sign or from that overhanging patio. One of the things that isn't shown in this picture is what it will be hung by. It will be hung by ornamental chain. And the bottom of the sign, as discussed with Mr. Wood, who is the lady's contractor, is expected to hang a minimum of 8 feet from the average grade. Probably will be more like 10 feet, but it will comply with the 8-foot requirement. We looked at it, and again, we are recommending approval as presented.
So how is it secured?
It'll be secured to the underside of that overhanging patio.
Hanging by chain.
Right. How far, how long, what do you think that distance is?
What the code requires is that it be no less than 8 foot from average grade. Because we're talking about people hitting their heads on the hanging sign. So it'll be 8 foot or higher from average grade. And in discussing this with Mr. Wood, actually I didn't, but one of my staff members did, they're anticipating somewhere closer to 10 feet off the ground.
Bottom of sign.
Bottom of sign, yes.
Question related to the height of the sign. Is there going to be a walkway built next to that wall there, or a sidewalk, which would decrease that height substantially?
The applicant and her representative are there, so I would defer to them on that.
Maybe you could, come on up. Either one of you.
Can you stand?
Help us capture it on record. If you just tell us your name and business address real quick. Thank you.
David Wood. I work for Ken Dempsey over here. The distance between this building and the next building is about 12 feet. So we plan to have, in the front of this building, there will be no walkway, there'll be pots and plants and stuff like that. This is a granite base, not enough to plant any flower beds or whatever, but Mr. Dempsey's gonna put potted plants and things of that sort of that.
Orient me at least, where is that other building in relation?
The other building is, this building is facing the side of what Burlap Junkies is, so it's to the right.
Okay.
Okay, so it'd be crushed granite or something like that?
It is crushed granite. This whole area, we decided to just make it flat crushed granite.
Sure.
And there'll be a walkway, but decorated with pots and stuff. Didn't have enough room for any vegetation really in the ground.
I understand. The reason I was asking is if there's gonna be some wooden, deck there or something that comes up 4 feet. Now I have less than 8 feet. That's where I was going with it.
No, what you see now is about the grade.
Okay.
Keeps us with the handicap compliance and all that to be able to get in the building.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand still the hanging part.
It's gonna hang,
What's the distance? I mean, how big of a hanging thing is that?
comes from this corner here over to here and just should be suspended there.
So it's not, it's a couple feet?
Sorry?
Couple feet from the bottom of the little
The
balcony?
top of the sign would be almost right level with the bottom of that patio.
Okay.
Went with an old western type of thing, this building be all cedar, to kind of have an old hanging down sign, and that little balcony provided the perfect place to do it. Not really functional, it's more of an architectural thing
All right.
for the whole building, unless you want to have a Mardi Gras parade and throw beads. I'm not sure what Mr. Dempsey has in mind.
All right, any other questions or comments or a motion?
Chairman, I'll make a motion
Jeff.
to approve the request by Monica Murray for hanging signage pursuant to the Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98 zoning, Section 9872, OTHSD, subsection G, sign regulations for a Mimi Day Market located at 14743 East Bandera Road, Helotes, Texas 78023.
Is there a second? Joe, further discussion? Jeff, Joe, anyone? No. The motion is to approve the request by Monica Murray for hanging signage pursuant to 9872 subsection G of the Old Town of Lotus Special District sign regulations for Mimi Day Market at 14743 East Bandera Road. All in favor of the motion, please signal aye. Aye. Approved, opposed? This motion is approved. Thank you for being here to speak to it. And that concludes our agenda for this evening. Ron, would you like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, may we adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
Michael, all in favor of adjourning, signal aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned at 7:39.
You know, you didn't quite beat my time.
Yeah,
We had a much shorter meeting.
what can I say?